You've had this thought before, sitting in your car, watching the blue brushes slap against your windshield, paying $9 for something you could technically do yourself with a hose, and 20 minutes you don't have. And somewhere in that 3-minute tunnel, you've thought it. I should own one of these. Everyone has had this thought. It's usually followed by watching the guy at the payment kiosk, doing basically nothing and thinking, that's it. That's the whole job. Stand there, collect money, go home rich. Here's a secret before we go any further. That guy at the kiosk isn't the business. He's barely even part of the story. The actual money in this industry is sitting in something you probably signed up for without thinking twice, something that keeps charging you even on the months you never show up. We're going to spend the next several minutes getting there properly, because the number alone means nothing without understanding what it costs to build the thing around it first. Here's the thing though, you've had this exact same thought about a lot of businesses. The guy at the dry cleaner, the lady who owns the nail salon with a line out the door, your dentist who you're fairly sure retired to Florida years ago but still shows up twice a week because why not? Car washes just hit different because the whole operation looks so simple from the driver's seat. No skill required, no small talk with customers, just water, brushes, and a payment machine collecting money from people too lazy to grab a bucket. So let's actually find out if that's true. Not the version where a guy on the internet with a rented Lamborghini tells you car washes print money. The actual version with the actual numbers, including the parts nobody mentions in the pitch. Here's the fantasy first, because you need to hear it before you hear the reality. A well-located express tunnel car wash can gross $1.5 to $4 million a year. Margins of 45 to 67%, some of the highest of any small business in the country. Add a membership program, $34 a month for unlimited washes, and suddenly you're not selling car washes anymore. You're selling a subscription that happens to also clean cars. 60% of customers at real car washes now choose the membership over paying per visit. That's recurring revenue showing up in your account, whether it rains, snows, or your customer's car is spotless and they wash it anyway out of habit. Sounds incredible. Sign me up. Where do I send the check? Here's where the check actually goes, and it's a lot bigger than you're picturing. Building one express tunnel from scratch costs $1 to $4 million before you've washed a single car. That's land, construction, the tunnel equipment itself, permits, and the membership kiosk with the little screen that shows your pricing tiers. If that number just made you close this tab and go back to dreaming about vending machines, fair enough, but stay with me, because there's a cheaper way in that we'll get to. Let's talk about that number for a second, because it's the one that separates the people who actually own car washes from the people who just talk about owning car washes at dinner parties. You know that friend, everyone has one. He read an article once, did some quick math in his head, and now he brings up car washes every time anyone mentions money. You know what's actually a genius business? Car washes. He says this the way other people say, you know what's undervalued? Bitcoin. He has never once looked into what land costs in his own city, let alone what a tunnel system runs. Land alone in a decent traffic location can run anywhere from $300,000 to over $1 million before construction even starts. The tunnel system itself, the actual brushes, blowers, conveyor, and water reclaim equipment adds another several $100,000 on top. This is why most first-time owners don't build. They either buy an existing location or go through a franchise, which brings its own costs, typically $35,000 to $50,000 upfront, plus 4 to 6% of every dollar of revenue forever, in exchange for brand recognition and a system that's already been tested. Let's say you've got the money or the loan or the investors, or you decided the franchise fee was worth not guessing at everything yourself. Now the real costs start, the ones that don't show up in anyone's exciting pitch deck. Quick detour on that franchise decision, because it splits people into two camps at every car wash industry event. The independent owners will tell you franchises are a scam, paying 6% of your revenue forever for a logo you could have designed yourself. The franchise owners will tell you independents are gambling with their life savings on marketing, pricing, and equipment decisions that took the franchise a decade of trial and error to get right. Both of them are a little bit correct. A franchise gets you a tested playbook, name recognition drivers already trust, and often better financing terms because lenders like predictable businesses. An independent keeps all the upside once things work, but eats every mistake alone, including the expensive kind, like discovering the hard way that your chosen brush material shreds on certain paint types. Water and chemicals eat into every single wash. Even with reclaim systems that filter and reuse water, you're still paying for soap, wax, tire shine, and the electricity to run brushes and blowers on every car that comes through. A single wash costs the owner less than $1 in water and chemicals. It sells for $8 to $12. That gap is where the margin lives, but less than $1 still adds up fast when 500 cars are coming through on a Saturday. Budget 5 to 8% of revenue just for maintenance and repairs. And that's the boring stuff. A tunnel breakdown on a Saturday afternoon, your busiest hour of the week, can cost you thousands in lost washes while a technician you're paying overtime tries to figure out why the conveyor stopped moving. There is nothing quite like a line of 40 cars backing up onto the main road because a single brush motor decided today was the day to die. Labor isn't nothing either. Modern tunnels run lean. 3 or fewer employees instead of the 12 to 25 a wash needed decades ago. But you're still paying $14 to $18 an hour for attendants and $18 to $25 for shift managers every single day you're open, rain or shine, busy or dead. And rain actually matters here in a way it doesn't for most businesses. You will become, whether you like it or not, someone who checks the weather app obsessively. A rainy month can drop your revenue 30 to 50% because nobody wants a wash that's getting rained on 5 minutes later. Every car wash owner in America has stood at their window on a Tuesday morning, watching storm clouds roll in, feeling the specific dread of a shopkeeper who just watched his entire day's revenue evaporate before opening. This is exactly why the membership model matters so much. Members pay whether they show up or not. Without that recurring base, you're a business whose income depends on the weather app, which is not a fun way to run a company. Here's a timeline most first-time owners aren't prepared for. Most tunnels take 12 to 18 months just to break even. Full revenue potential, the kind where you're actually making real money, takes 24 to 36 months. There's also a stack of paperwork nobody warns you about going in, stormwater runoff permits. Since soap and dirt can't legally just wash into the storm drain, commercial liability insurance that runs higher than most business owners expect because of the equipment and water involved, and in some states, specific water reclamation requirements that add another layer of inspection before you're even allowed to open. None of it is dramatic. All of it takes time and money you budgeted for the fun parts. And the entire thing hinges on one number almost nobody mentions upfront. Once you hit 1,500 to 2,000 active members, the economics finally become genuinely solid. Below that number, you're treading water, hoping enough one-time customers show up to cover the water bill. Let's talk about why that membership number matters so much, because it's actually a little bit sneaky, in a way that would make a behavioral economist smile. You sign up for the $24 a month plan, tell yourself you'll use it every week, and then life happens. You forget for 3 weeks. You wash your car twice in a month you paid for 4 washes on. You are, at that exact moment, doing exactly what the business model needs you to do. Gym memberships figured this out decades ago. Car washes just figured out how to apply it to something you'll actually use occasionally instead of never. So here's the honest math. Year 1, you're barely breathing, watching a loan payment and a construction bill and wondering if you made a huge mistake. This is also the year you learn things no equipment manual mentions, like which local supplier actually delivers chemicals on time, or that your grand opening banner is going to get destroyed by the exact kind of wind that somehow only shows up on grand opening day. Year 2, membership numbers are climbing, and for the first time, the recurring revenue actually covers your fixed costs without you sweating every rainy weekend. By year 3, if you pick the location well, you're not just profitable. You're sitting on a business generating hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from a building that mostly just needs water, electricity, and someone to empty the vacuum bins. This is the part where most videos about this stop with a nice round number and a thumbs up. But the actual fortune, the 7-figure version of this business, doesn't come from one tunnel. It comes from what a smart owner does with that first tunnel's cash flow. Once location 1 is stable, profitable, and running mostly on autopilot with a manager you trust, the owners who actually build wealth here don't buy a boat. They take that cash flow straight to the down payment on location 2. Same membership system, same pricing tiers, same playbook, just applied somewhere new. The first tunnel taught them everything the hard way. Which employees actually show up, which day of the week needs extra staff, how fast the reclaim system clogs in hard water areas. Location 2 skips almost all of that learning curve and usually breaks even in half the time the first one did, purely because nobody's guessing anymore. One profitable tunnel becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and somewhere around location 5 or 6, you're not really in the car wash business anymore. You're running a membership company that happens to clean cars, with a finance team tracking churn rates and a marketing budget for billboard ads you never would have imagined needing back when you were nervously watching the weather app during year 1. The actual industry data backs this up. Deal activity in car wash acquisitions is approaching $1 billion a year because investors have figured out exactly what we just walked through. The unit economics on a single well-run tunnel are better today than they've ever been in the industry's history, which is exactly why private equity firms that wouldn't have looked twice at a car wash a decade ago are now buying up regional chains. There's a version of this story playing out right now outside a mid-sized city near you. An owner opens location 1 with every dollar he has and a loan he's slightly terrified of. Year 1 is rough, exactly like we described. Tight margins, a broken conveyor motor at the worst possible time, a rainy April that nearly wipes out his cash reserve. By year 3, membership has crossed 2,000. The weather app has stopped controlling his mood, and the business is quietly profitable in a way that doesn't require him to think about it daily. He doesn't buy the boat. He puts the down payment on a second lot across town, using everything location 1 taught him about staffing, chemical suppliers, and which day of the week actually needs the extra attendant. By location 4, he stopped introducing himself as the car wash guy and started saying he runs a small chain, and people who used to nod politely start actually asking follow-up questions. Now, the part I promised you, the cheaper way in, for anyone who just did the math on $4 million and quietly closed the tab, you don't have to build one, you can buy one. Increasingly, investors are comparing the cost of building new against buying an existing, already profitable tunnel with an established membership base, because when those numbers converge, buying wins. You skip the 12 to 18 month break-even entirely. You're not hoping to hit 2,000 members someday. You're buying a location that already has them, already has 3 years of real financial history instead of a spreadsheet full of projections, and already survived its first rainy season without falling apart. This is the same pattern that shows up across almost every business like this. The guy standing at that payment kiosk was never the business. He never was. The business is the subscription you forgot you were even paying for, quietly charging your card, whether your car got dirty this month or not, whether you drove past 3 times or not once. Somebody figured out that you'd rather pay $9 than pick up a hose, turned that instinct into a recurring charge you barely notice, and multiplied it by 500 cars a day. That's not a car wash. That's a membership company wearing a car wash as a disguise, and it's been sitting in plain sight the entire time you've been driving past it.